This is going to be a lesson in biology on cells and cell structures. There are two main types of cells, prokaryotic and eukaryotic. As you can tell, they look very different and have different functions. Kind of compare and contrast these. Prokaryotic cells are often bacteria. They don't contain a nucleus. They're lacking many of the organelles that eukaryotic cells have. Very small, and they produce much differently than eukaryotic cells. Eukaryotic cells in general are plant and animal cells that have a distinct nucleus, more organelles, and are much larger. Both of these cells are similar because they both have genetic information, DNA, both have plasma membranes and contain ribosomes. So looking more specifically at eukaryotic cells, the two main types of eukaryotic cells are plant versus animal cells. You can see these cells have much more similarities between the two than prokaryotic versus eukaryotic, but they also have many differences. Plant cells contain a cell wall, which gives the cell structure, which animal cells are lacking. They also have vacuoles that hold water for the plant, and chloroplasts, which is the site for photosynthesis. Animal cells do not need chloroplasts because they do not photosynthesize. Animal cells have other things like lysosomes and centrioles, which plant cells do not need, but both cells contain nucleus, mitochondria, Golgi apparatus, things like that, which we will take a closer look at. So we're going to take a closer look now at the animal cells. So this is a blown up picture of an animal cell and all its different organelles. The ones in blue are the ones we're going to look at a little bit more closely. So first we have the cell membrane. This is the layer, the outermost layer that separates the inside of the cell from the outside of the cell, and it is composed of a lipid bilayer. It gives the cell's structure, keeps the organelles inside, and it's referred to as selectively permeable because it controls what goes in and out of the cell. And it does this through proteins, which you can see here in the cell membrane. Next we have the cytoplasm, which is essentially all the fluid that fills up the extra space in the cell between the organelles. Contains sugars and proteins that the cell uses for fuel, and it keeps the organelles suspended in the cell. And then we come to the nucleus, which is often referred to as the brain of the cell. It controls all of the functions going on in the cell, knows what's going on in the cell at all times. Examples, it controls eating, movement, and reproduction. And the nucleus contains all the genetic information that the cell needs to reproduce. We also have centrioles in the cell, and centrioles are two small organelles that are part of the process of cell division. They're often located near the nucleus, and they allow the cell to divide and help in the processes of mitosis and meiosis. Ribosomes are often referred to as protein builders of the cell. You can find them floating around in the cytoplasm or often attached to the endoplasmic reticulum, or known as the ER. Without ribosomes, the cell could not make proteins, and without proteins, the cell could not function. Proteins help the cell eat, regulate itself, produce more cells, and many, many other functions. We also have the mitochondria, which is referred to as the powerhouse of the cell. Mitochondria is the organelle most involved in digesting food and nutrients in the cell and turning it into usable energy. It also is the site of cellular respiration. And some fun facts about mitochondria is that it has its own double membrane and was thought to at one time actually be its own cell, self-sustaining, and not inside of another cell. Also in the cell, you'll find the endoplasmic reticulum. This is also known as the ER, and it's the packaging system of the cell. It works with the Golgi complex, which we will get to, and with the ribosomes and DNA to create different membranes. There's two different types of ER. We have rough and smooth. Rough ER refers to the part of the endoplasmic reticulum that contains ribosomes on it. And as you can see, the little dots are the ribosomes, and it makes the endoplasmic reticulum look rough. We also have the smooth ER, which does not contain ribosomes. Next, we have the Golgi apparatus, which works very closely with the ER. It's also a packaging system, and it gathers simple molecules to create more complex molecules. So it packages these simple molecules together and then turns these complex molecules into vesicles. And then those vesicles are either stored for later or get sent outside of the cell. Again, it works very closely with the rough ER and ribosomes. Next, we have lysosomes, and these are little vesicles that contain proteins, and these are made by the Golgi complex, one of the packages that the Golgi complex makes, and its function is to digest food and other molecules that are in the cell, and it does this using proteins. So they can digest food, digest other organelles, and they can even digest other cells that might enter the cell. Oops. And then we have our Works Cited page.